Unasoma kwa bunge. You stood on a platform of bottom up. Kusaidia wale wanyonge, alafu waende juu. Lakini sasa hizi mmesahau. Mkiongeza fuel, mnatesa wale wa chini zaidi kushinda wale wa juu. Kama sawa basi, mko hapa. Mkitoka hapa mtuonyeshe petrol stations ya watu wa serikali na ile ya opposition. There are many people who are languishing in poverty. The school fees has been increased. The cost of living is on another level. And you spoke on the same basis. Mulisema yule rais ambaye alitoka hapo anajua kuongoza, hata mimi nikakubali. Lakini nyinyi you have made it worse than Uhuru Kenyatta.
Na hii serikali itasimama na itasimama na nyinyi watu wa bottom up, na bado tutashika hii serikali iende juu. Mbolea kutoka 7,000 mpaka 2,500. Hiyo sio kazi.
Well, the Federation of Evangelical and Indigenous Christian Churches of Kenya has warned that some decisions made by the judiciary are bound to corrupt the moral fabric of Kenyan society. Days after the Supreme Court of Kenya reaffirmed the National Gay and Lesbianism Human Rights Commission rights to register as an NGO in Kenya, the leaders warned this is paving way for illegal or rather legal championing of LGBTQ rights in the country. The clerics warned of a looming moral decay among the youth.
Preparing our children here, and we are telling them when they go to colleges and universities, they need to know that the fact that something is legal is not necessarily moral. And therefore we are telling them when they are confronted with decisions of issues like LGBT, which may be legal but immoral, that they should always lean onto the side of the morality. And we are actually asking our courts that when they make these rulings, of course it is their area, they are the experts in that, but we are asking them to also have the future of this country in mind as they make their rulings, the welfare of the Kenyan people.
Our Kenya today is very complicated. Today we are talking about self-awareness. I've realized with young people, they really don't know who they are. They kind of just flowing from primary school to high school and now to college. So they'll find people who are already in the system. Some of them, because they don't know who they are, they find themselves in issues that, you know, they are not prepared to, like relationships. We have issues of drugs and so many things. Right now, I think part of what is happening in Kenya is this issue of LGBT. So some of them, they come home innocently, not knowing what.
Well, remember still earlier last week, the Supreme Court of Kenya threw out an application by Homa Bay Town Member of Parliament, Peter Kaluma, that sought to challenge the court ruling on the registration of an LGBTQ lobby group and the definition of sex as used in the case. Well, in his application before the Supreme Court, dated March 9th, 2023, Kaluma asked the court to stay the orders allowing an NGO coordination board to register members of the LGBTQ community in the country.
The courts hid under while purporting to interpret the Article 24, sub-Article 4 of the Constitution to say sex therefore includes sexual orientation. And sexual orientation, as you know, is the idea that you determine your gender each minute, each second, each time, in spite of your sex of birth. So that I entered here as a man and you can see it, but in the middle of this interview I can say and I'm a woman and you must treat me as a woman, refer to me as a woman, give me all spaces of a woman henceforth. And then you remember the case undergoing inquiry in Scotland currently, where a convict said he's a woman for purposes of imprisonment and was taken to the female sections and went there raping every female person he found around. And the inquiry cannot yield much because the response of the wardens is that having identified himself as a woman, he had to be taken to the women section. That is where we are being put.
Well, welcome now to the daily's newspapers. Well, it is interesting how today's dailies look like. Well, starting with the Daily Nation. Death of trade unions. Wielding enormous power with their sizable constituency, countrywide structures, and the potential to mobilize members on social or political matters, trade unions have always been a thorn in the flesh for successive governments. But not anymore. The workers' lobbies of 2023 have lost their spark and are now a pale shadow of their former self. Well, this is very interesting. Right there, trying to highlight exactly what is going on. Are the trade unions slowly dying? Are they losing the grip they had before of keeping the government on check, making sure that the members of the trade unions benefit? Well, quite interesting. Now it is being claimed that they are losing the grip, quite highlighted properly there by the Daily Nation on page 6 and 7. Now, cracks in Kenya Kwanza over taxes, cost of living, fuel prices. Well, 211.64, that is Kenya shillings. The current cost of a litre of petrol in Nairobi, fuel prices crossed the 200 shillings mark for the first time in history following the government's latest review. Well, this will have far-reaching consequences on households that are already struggling with the high cost of living. Well, looking at the price of fuel currently, I've seen matatu operators plying different routes have started hiking prices. Well, this is most likely to affect each and every one of us. Now you can imagine that the cost of kerosene, which is majorly used by several homes around different densely populated areas in the country, will now have to part away with a little bit more, which is high than ever, well, in the country. Now this is going to greatly affect the expenditure of Kenyans and how they are used to lead their lives. We do hope that this whole issue will be taken into consideration. But now the government is also pushing Kenyans to renewable energy. That is for cooking. Now the question that now arises is, will the boda guys manage with 200 bob? How many trips will a boda operator move, or rather make, to make profit? You can imagine if it is a distance of 50 shillings or say 100 shillings with jam in Nairobi, then are they likely to make loss or profit? Now, to make it worse, if the motorbike is not owned by the operator himself, he is just an employee. Quite interesting right there how much now you will have to work to make sure that you make the profit you're supposed to make and also pay for your daily expenditures. And crime family now demands justice for girl found dead at City University. Quite an interesting occurrence right there. It has sparked debate online, questions on how the young girl was murdered, or rather what led to her death right there. Questions abound over the murder of a Daystar University student within the institution's premises, with her family demanding answers. Mercy Gerono, 18, was killed just 4 days after reporting at Daystar's Athi River campus in Machakos County. When you take a close look on that story, the unfolding events that took place before her untimely death, Gerono is said to have called the mother, complaining, or rather telling her that she is not comfortable with the night, or rather the freshers night, the freshers day, or rather celebrations. Later on, she called, telling her that she did not manage to find matatu to take her back home. Now, she was forced to spend right there to continue enjoying the celebration. Funny enough, her body was found in a totally different hostel than the one the mother paid for. Questions right there on how she was found dead. The hostel She was, or rather she's reported to have been found, has no CCTV according to the parents, and now they cannot even trace the cause of her death. It is quite painful, and this is not the first time such cases are happening. And now the question is, how safe are these institutions, or rather students in higher learning institutions, how safe are they? And also, what can be done to make sure that they are safe? Because this is not the first incident of murder taking place in the same university within the same year. This is not the second, or it might be the third one over this specific year. And what is leading to such cases of students being found murdered in instances that are not properly brought out? Kenya beats Zimbabwe to qualify for Paris Olympics, that is on Matter Sports. Kenya Shujaa yesterday became the second team sport from Kenya to qualify for the 2024 Paris Olympics after showing a lot of bravery to pick direct ticket at the Rugby African Men's Sevens in Harare. Well, Shujaa shook World Rugby Sevens Series co-side South Africa 17-12 in the final to join women volleyball team Malkia Strikers, who qualified recent in Cameroon. We say well done, Team Kenya, right there. Rugby, they're doing quite well, and we've seen quite great moves right there. Now shifting to the Standard. Kenya Kwanza, it will only get worse. You can imagine, that is what we are being told. In the heydays of Tanga Tanga Group, they castigated Uhuru Kenyatta as careless leader when prices of fuel hit 134 shillings. Now in government, and prices were well over 200. They want you to prepare for even tougher times. Page 4, right there, let's take a look on the sentiments made by Ndindi Nyoro back in 2022. It is now so despicable, insensitive, inconsiderate of the government that we elected, that their preoccupation every day is to add the cost of living to the people of Kenya. That was back while they were in the Tanga Tanga Group in 2022. They were castigating the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta's government, for hiking the cost of fuel to 134 shillings. Now, the prices are over 200, the highest in the country's history. It is true that we are facing the challenge of soaring cost of living. There is nothing to hide. We as leaders are telling you the truth that the cost of fuel has skyrocketed all over the world. That is Moses Kuria just the other day while he was in Uasin Gishu County. Now, these are different sentiments. One is seen now to be defensive of the government, but even if the cost of living is going up across the world, the question is, do we expect our leaders to speak this way to us? Do we, or rather should we have hope? These are questions that Kenyans are asking all over online platforms. Now we've seen that the debate has gone a notch higher, even as the economic advisor to the president, Lee, just putting things bluntly, that there is no too much. We shouldn't rather expect too much from the government, because this is the reality. We are facing the reality. It's going to be tough and even tougher. So we should brace ourselves as Kenyans. You can imagine now Moses Kuria also telling us that the prices are here. If you have your own well, you can dig. You will come to assist. Speaking so confidently of that specific issue right there. Well, waiting to see how that moves out. And the Standard has also captured a very good tale of success from the streets of to graduation. Graduate from Embu University shares his life a tough journey, born of a jobless single mother, and later left to fend for himself and siblings until a well-wisher mobilized the community to fund his education. Well, it is indeed a story of grace to grace. Now we do hope after graduating there shall be job for him. And the new bill tame rogue land selling companies, that is Alan Chesang proposing the bill, the Senator of Trans Nzoia County. land issue. Land selling companies have been, most of them, which have been rogue, have been selling land to Kenyans and duping most of them to unrealistic either prices or unrealistic or rather unexisting pieces of or rather parcels of land. MP's big push for technology-assisted concepts. Previous attempt by Suba North Member of Parliament Millie Odhiambo to enact laws to regulate technology-assisted concepts failed. The legislator is back with 2 new drafts which says will offer reprieve to couples battling infertility. It's quite a bold move right there. We wait to see how that will turn out. Well, and the MPs defend Ruto against Azimio low rating. Well, remember, it is interesting as Azimio leader Raila Odinga rated the Kenya Kwanza government having scored a D- during their first year in government. Well, Azimio's 30% rating of Kenya Kwanza government performance. Taking a look on the different issues that Azimio highlighted, budget deficit, cost of living, public finance, exchange rate. These are just amongst the issues that Azimio tried to bring out. And we've seen that the current rating of President William Ruto is not that much higher. And we are waiting to see how things will turn out now that we expect him to jet back to the country after his meeting. Now, these are quite interesting statistics highlighted today about different issues to do with the cost of living. Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua was very clear, urging this CS and also different top government officials to exercise caution on how they talk to Kenyans. You know, the public image, in as much as you're telling the truth, there is a way you can tell the truth and Kenyans will see hope, but you're bluntly telling them in a way that you show less care. We shall be taking a look on this later on and the effect and the impact it might have specifically on matters strategy. You know, the government has to work on a strategy and how the sentiments made by CS of Trade, Moses Kuria, and also Davis Chirchir on Friday, he bluntly said that we have no way to help Kenyans. Well, David D, the president's financial advisor, also speaks the same way on his X app, or rather on his X. He's been there counter-attacking Kenyans on different issues. Basically, that is how today's dailies look like. We shall be taking a look later on specifically how it turns out to be on our day's discussion, trying to unravel specifically the way the government is addressing the issue of cost of living. It is true, it might be a worldwide issue, but how are we handling this specific issue? The increase of taxes, the increase of basic commodities, prices of basic commodities, how is it going to affect Kenyans? And should we brace ourselves even for tougher times? It might be true, but until when will we be bracing ourselves? Is it time now to sit down, have a candid conversation on how to address each and every specific issue? Well, we shall be right back with the day's discussion. Don't go too far. Remember, we are just asking, does the government have a way forward with regards to the cost of living?
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
In a fast-paced world filled with distractions, it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters: your relationship with God. Every Tuesday and Thursday, we take you on a transformative journey of building your faith, without which it's impossible to please God. A journey of introspection and discovery of who you are in Christ Jesus.
For you to walk with God, you should not crumble when you come under pressure. Kama umeokoka, sema umeokoka mpaka mbele ya president, mpaka mbele ya chief justice, mpaka mbele ya kila mtu. Hiyo ndio kuokoka ya ukweli. Kuokoka ya ukweli.
Enjoy a faith-filled environment of worship and ministry of the Word every Tuesday and Thursdays from 9 a.m. with Reverend Felix Kevoy, exclusively on
Hello, praise the Lord. My name is Pastor Joseph Musajawaza of Unfailing Love Ministries. I'm inviting you every Wednesday to join us on our program, Victory Through the Word. In this program, we teach you God's Word. We teach you to find solutions and answers to the struggles of life through the Word of God. Everything you ever go through in life, every pain, every tear, every worry, and every questions that you may ever have in this life. You may not get answers out there, but in God's Word, there are answers and there is a solution. The Bible says that God has exalted His Word above His name. In His Word, there is hope. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but His Word will always remain abide. I encourage you, engage with us as we study together, as you ask your questions, and let your questions be answered as you are built and as you hear God's Word. Our church is located in Umoja, Inako, near Olobon Hotel, just off Sango Stage along Moi Drive, and the court is known as Church Court. Give us a visit and your life will not remain the same. God bless you. Let's meet every Wednesday from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. only on EBN television.
If the word of God goes and says, gives you an opportunity to receive Jesus, don't say, I'll think about it. Don't say tomorrow. Do not say next month. Because the times we are living are evil. Because time is short. We are seizing the moment when we are there. And that is the time we are sure of. Bana is what to cause.
Every Saturday from 8:30 a.m.
But we should not be afraid to interpret scripture.
Get to know the story behind the Bible. Why was it written? To whom was it written? And what was happening when it was written? Understand, get to know, learn how to properly interpret the scriptures so that you're not deceived.
In the book of Revelation, and we have started to enter into the happenings, because these are things that are going to take place hereafter.
Join Pastor Felix Kevoy and his team as they go through the different books of the Bible and give you the theological interpretation of the same.
At the very introduction of the book of Revelation, the book lays clear what is contained in here.
Every Saturday from 8:30 a.m. on The Theology Show, only on EBN, transforming your world.
You are watching EBN TV, transforming your world.
Well, welcome back to the Morning Live right here. My name is Sami Andika. I do hope you are having a fantastic day wherever you are seated. Remember that currently we are seeing government top officials having an exchange with Kenyans, and specifically David D, the economic advisor to the president, has been having exchange with the Kenyans on the Twitter, formerly Twitter, currently X, a social media platform right there. We shall be taking a look on that and many more. Just asking that, does the government really care, specifically from the perspective of the responses we are seeing from the CS, two CS, David Chirchir, the energy CS, just told Kenyans the other day that there's nothing the government can do, specifically on matters fuel cost, the cost of fuel in the country. Well, joining me this morning in our day's conversation is none other than Muito Mureithi. Many thanks for making it this morning to the conversation. We want to understand specifically where are we as a nation and how far are we likely to go with now David D bluntly telling Kenyans these are mistakes we made 10 years ago. Now we are on receivership. That is what he's stating clearly on his X media app. And how is that going to affect us? Well, many thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very
welcome
much
to the conversation.
Thank you very
now,
much.
let's take a quick one right there. I can see you're taking a look on it. We have Moses Kuria, the CS of Trade. We have Davis Chirchir, the CS of Energy and Petroleum. We also have David, or rather D, David D, the current president's economic advisor.
Yeah.
He's been bluntly, and if I can go through that, his response on social to when he responded to Mohammed Walia. Mohammed said, "Ulituon, fair enough, but people go to Oxford and MIT to solve complex challenges. Kenyans did their bit and got rid of the previous regime and its preferred successor. They are relying on D and the company to bail them out and find solutions. Why not give hope at a minimum? Why rub it on their face?" Well, David D responded and said, "These expectations that Kenya can abuse credit for a decade and the same people come make consequences go away painlessly just because there was a game if musical chairs we call elections. Are we sober? I told you 2 years ago Kenya was in receivership. Nothing has changed. I'm not a politician. I don't sell hope. It is going to be painful and it may not work. Even Oxford and Harvard trained doctors lose patience."
Yep.
Interesting facts right there. But let's be frank, being in leadership, they say in as much as you tell the truth, but find a way to tell the truth. What kind of picture does it create?
First of all, I'm seeing a very confused public. And why I'm calling it confused is that today it's saying a true friend is one who tells you the truth.
Yes.
But it's amazing that today they would like to accommodate some bit of lies so that they can have some hope. I've had patients before, and God rest my sister's soul, my sister's soul in peace. But I have had patients close to me, taking care of them. And I'll give you a good example of my mother. When she was sick, diagnosed of cancer, the professionals, the good doctors, who work in all good hospitals, said she's not going to hit 2 years alive. But being even a staunch Roman Catholic, she had to be, served with that last sacrament. It means if you go now, you will go complete and whole, straight to purgatory. But I asked my mother, do you want to live? Now that they've said so, the doctor has declared, I made it very clear to her to understand. That was Soon as 2 years elapsed,
Yes.
I told her it's now past 2 years, a few months into it. I told her, now, would you like to leave, or would you like to believe the report of the doctors, or believe the report of the church you believe in? She said, I want to leave. And I gave her a prescription. It's about thanking God every minute that God allows you. But when you put God aside, like what Kenyans are doing, hope is not in His Excellency President William Ruto. Hope is not even in Kenyans. The president himself is not supposed to anchor his hopes in Kenya. Neither the leaders in government, neither are the Kenyans themselves towards the government they elected. It is towards God. Now that should be very well understood. But since humans are gods themselves, they like also to worship and praise themselves, they would feel it's uncomfortable to, let it out all for, the true God.
Yes.
However, back to politics. When my mother said so, to cut the long story short, she lived for another 8 years, 6 years and a few months, which means she lived for 8 years. Thanking God. What I'm trying to say is, Moses Kuria did not announce El Nino. It's the meteorological department.
Yes.
Who has run to the neck of meteorological department, communications department? No. I want you to see where the politics come in, the politics of Azimio, using the tool of the media.
Yes.
And I'm talking about Azimio as in the opposition, because it's not the government biting itself. The truth is, if we inherited an economy that is being resuscitated and we are doing every bit of it from that emergency room to bring it up. Now I'm talking as if I was addressing now the people from the government side.
Yes.
This is what we are supposed to understand. That there's some systems to be put in place so that once they start running, they will cost some life in certain areas, certain sectors of the economy. However, when it comes to a global economic crunch, like what we had in 2009 to 2008, what we had in the 1930s, I'll tell you something that Kenyans are not trying to see.
Yes.
Something called state protectionism. Protectionism is where you ensure that first you take care of your people. Keep what you have to satisfy your people before you take it outside the borders. It happened in 1930 when there was an economic crisis. It happened in 2008 when there was an economic crisis. Because when you're having cereals at the National Cereals Board, and we have a surplus, even in the farms, it means at that time, you are supposed to make sure that Kenyans have food.
Yes.
So you don't go selling to Mexico and Uganda and Tanzania when your people are suffering, are dying. You understand?
Yes.
So that, in terms of food, is an exercise of protectionism. Now, the people who produce oil, and they know too well that the world is depending on them for oil, they have to make sure that they secure for the purpose of their kin. And that is what they have done. Ukraine has been at war. Do you think they could be in the same state they were in when we were purchasing, or the world was depending on them for wheat and all this oil and many other things? No. At this time, they have to make sure that whatever they have, they keep it to themselves. So, is it a crisis that has been created by the Minister for Trade, or Minister for Industrialization, or a Minister for whichever ministry? Energy? No. Or the Economic Advisor? No.
So
when you give it a global perspective, put the politics of the country aside and take the global politics into it.
Well,
why is Ukraine suffering today? It is the Cold War between the United States of America and Russia that started way back in 1945, okay, after the Second World War. And at the inception of United Nations, that's the time the two wings started now fighting. Cold War is still continuing. Okay, so every superpower is trying to weaken the other. Is it a Kenyan affair?
No.
But are we getting affected? Yes, we are.
So are you of the consent that there is nothing the government can do?
No. It's not that there is nothing the government can do. It's Ukraine versus Russia versus US. What can Kenya do? to get enough oil for Kenyans, cooking oil for Kenyans, to get wheat for Kenyans. What we've been depending on Ukraine. And I'm taking you to the former government. They said much of what is consumed in Kenya in terms of wheat and oil, cooking oil, comes from Ukraine. And that is why we're suffering this crisis. Okay, there was some politics in it, but let's leave the politics aside. Let's listen to the statement of the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta. He said it. He said we depend on what comes from Ukraine. Has Ukraine changed because Kenya has elected a new government? It hasn't. It still remains Ukraine under war with Russia. And the US and NATO are helping them. It's still the Cold War formations that are in tussle. But the spillage of whatever blood is shed or whatever pains are actually shared, we are suffering that thing. So what can you do to mitigate that? Unless we come back now and build our own systems and have their cogs well needed. That's the only time we can have a system where we are working towards what the president has already initiated, establishing, ensuring that production in every sector, and taking agriculture, which has been the key sector, that let us produce our own food. Eventually they will identify which other areas can we produce sunflower for oil and all these kind of things. Maybe it will be coming out from Garissa. The other day we discovered that with the Kibaki government that Garissa can supply maize to Kenya and Tana area, which used to be considered as dry areas. Yeah.
Now, does it mean, you know, David D highlighted the issue to do with these are mistakes we did a decade ago.
Yeah.
In terms of leaderships and decisions. Is it so? Are we feeling the pain we ought to have felt before? Were we supposed to work on our system back a decade ago? These are issues that Kenyans need to address quickly.
Let me ask you a simple question. Yes. Kenyans have an experience of what happened in 10 years ago, 12 years ago. But in reality, things that happened yesterday, are we supposed to carry them to today and replace what is supposed to happen today? If we do that in our minds, then there is something we're going to miss. So what happened in 2008 and 10 and 12 before, that was good for that moment. So many changes have taken place. So many challenges have come up with new faces. And the government is facing this kind of thing. A lot of politics has taken place. And changes have taken place also, so imminent. So we cannot apply, and we always say you don't apply same tactics and expect same results.
Yes.
Yeah. So what happened in 2010 would have been good for that time. But today's politics and today's lifestyle, we expect a different approach. Okay. And that is what the system of Kenya Kwanza, the government of Kenya Kwanza is doing by putting in place systems. You've seen Kenya Kwanza introducing the 222 whatever. It's just to ensure that no resources are actually lost in the form of taxes. The 222 pay bill.
Yes.
Yeah, so that it can go straight to the government. There are people who will be offended. The ones who are taking advantage of the loopholes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We are waiting to see. Now we should stop the blame game.
Yeah, the blame game. No,
the Jubilee government.
It should stop.
Yes, because looking at this, let me take you quickly to one of the issues that was highlighted here by the Standard. Taking statistics of, or rather some of the sentiments made by Ndindi Nyoro in 2022, they were accusing President Uhuru Kenyatta back then of increasing the cost of living when fuel cost was 134. Now, the way you're saying things are changing.
Point of correction, it wasn't 134, it was 169.
Before that, the sentiments here
in August 9th, it was 169.
Yes, August 9th. But according to his statement, before it was 134 when it jumped from 90 shillings.
He must have lost it.
Yes.
He must have missed the digits about.
Yes.
It was 169. So that tells you what? That we're already in a crisis created by the former government.
So you're clearly telling me that we should now stop blame game and find solutions.
Find solutions.
Instead of telling Kenyans the blank truth in a way that it hurts most.
Yes, absolutely. Re-strategize. Look at it this way. We are facing, that's according to the meteorological department,
Yes.
we are facing the challenge, the probable challenge of El Nino coming around. And when was El Nino the last time? 2007. Now, between 2008 to 2022, we've not had El Nino. We're going to have it. So would we expect the same language, the same strategies to apply when we are having a disaster in the making? No. Strategies should change. Even the government itself is banning midnight oil. I believe they're actually banning midnight oil, trying to think, what are we going to do when this time comes, if it comes? Yeah.
Interesting. So the only statement they are left to tell Kenyans is brace yourselves for tougher times.
Brace yourself for tough times.
That's
I give you an analogy. Do you want to live? Or do you want to believe the report about your possible death? It's the same thing. Kenyans should now start thinking, what do we do to help the government revive its economy? It's a matter of playing your part right.
Yes.
Yeah. A fundi plays his part right. A farmer plays his part right. A politician says the right things. And on and on and on. A doctor does the same thing. I mean, doctors who trained in Harvard and wherever and gone to work in the best hospitals in the world, John Hopkins, are we saying that John Hopkins does not record any deaths?
It does.
Is it lack of qualification, proper qualifications?
No.
Then what are Kenyans complaining about? I mean, Kuria has put it blatantly. I mean, it's for you to see that, hey, this is the reality. But Kenyans want to be pampered. It's time for us to live in reality.
Yes, you're bringing
not utopia.
You're bringing me to a very interesting conversation last week when it was an issue that trended. Moses Kuria claiming that in Ruiru, the oil prices, cooking oil prices are much cheaper as compared to other parts of the country, and a comparison of what's in Gishu County and Ruiru was quite different. And he was like, send people there, you will see the difference.
I mean,
does it mean that some parts of the country it's cheap, should be cheap?
Did he talk about the country or the traders in Ruiru? People selling oil in Ruiru?
Yes.
So let's talk about traders. Let's see what traders behave. The locality where you come from, do all shops sell sugar, same price, same quantity?
The margin, as we know, is normally slight.
Okay, it's a very simple question. A difference is a difference. Do they sell the same? Is it uniform? The answer is no. I'm not your interviewer. You're interviewing me. I'm sorry. Definitely. But let me tell you this. Let me tell, and it's not you, it's about Kenyans. Yes. Where you live, as a matter of fact, you should do a research from where you are, the locality of where you are. Yes. Even shops, and I'm talking about traders, in those shops, in those markets, in those stalls, in those supermarkets, they don't sell the same.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example which is factual. If I shop in a place called a Kamindi supermarket, and they've not paid for airtime, and neither has they paid for airtime. But when I go to these two supermarkets, I always make sure, I always witness having a lot of change in my pocket. For the same things. Yes. So what I'm trying to say is they have the right, because they have the reasons that justify why they should sell what they sell at whatever price.
Yes.
These others are saying the same thing, and they're all paying taxes. Yeah. So what you're saying accordingly, rather. And I'm saying when traders in Mombasa say, unajua tumetoa mbali, and then a trader in Nairobi says, it's just manufactured here in this industrial area, I'm only paying 10 shillings for every carton I'm bringing it to my shop. Definitely, this person is reaping more profit than the other one, because the manufacturer or the wholesaler or the dealer is selling to them in a uniform price. Hakuna bei ya mtu wa Mombasa, wa Bungoma, wa Nairobi. Yeah. So it's up to you now to do your math and do your business. So what I would just say is that we get into this kind of understanding where we know that traders do trade for profit. Yeah. So if one goes for excessive profit, then that becomes a problem.
Well, we do understand that these are issues to do with where you purchase your product, and also there are other factors like transport, etc.
Yeah.
Now let's go slightly to what Azimio la Umoja the rating they gave to President William Ruto's government, the 1 year in office, 30%, that is equally to a D minus. Okay, we understand there are several issues they have been raising, and last week we saw the Federation of Kenya Employers also complaining of the increasing taxes they are being they are supposed to implement. Looking at the newly introduced health system, or rather health fund, the new from NHIF to the social health fund. It is likely that employees and employers, they will both be paying some percentage, definitely. And they're now saying that if this is the trend, we are going to collapse our economy.
Very simple understanding on this one. Whose report is that?
This specific one is Azimio, then also the
Azimio,
Federation Kenya.
The opponents to the Kenya Kwanza government. So how would they expect Azimio to say anything positive concerning the government? Azimio must work its strategies properly the way they are doing it right now. And I believe my president, our President William Ruto, loves it so much. When you challenge him, you're actually equipping him. Because when you give the government side your thoughts, it means they now understand and know how to get around it. Azimio is highlighting these things. But do they necessarily have to be the truth? The answer is no. Because they have an agenda, they have a strategy. And a strategy is to always discredit the government in place. Not Azimio, and I'm talking about opposition now. Even if Kenya Kwanza becomes opposition in 2027, that is what they'll do to the government that will be in place, is discrediting. You get the point?
Yes.
So what they're saying is within their right, and as a matter of fact, even the office that we are forming for the opposition is to sit down every other time, having sittings and discuss and come up with these kind of things, by a pull-out, and not just a column, a pull-out, and say everything, criticizing the government. I mean, that's what we would expect, because by then they'll be having money to do all these things. However, I listen also to guys like Infotrack.
Yes.
And somebody like me and any other Kenyan who knows how Infotrack came into play is when Stidman took the side of the government, was sort of pro-government, their opinions were sort of pro-government, the so-called Stidman. So ODM had to hire their guy who will be countering whatever report. So they used, Stidman would produce their results today, and next week, Infotrack, that was infantly formed, was actually presenting their own results. So Infotrack to me is like listening to the publicity secretary of Azimio. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of
now it's just, I say it's like the publicity secretary of Azimio speaking. They're organizing the publicity secretary, director of communication, saying anything. I mean that's what they'll say. Yeah.
Now we've also seen the issue to do with the former Mungiki. Maina Njenga was abducted on Saturday evening. Once he came from Nanyuki.
Yeah.
And once arriving in Banana, Kiambu County, he was abducted. Released yesterday night in Limuru.
Okay.
Now Azimio is up in arms.
Yeah.
We are seeing these abductions, and they claim that Maina Njenga was abducted by police officers in Subaru cars. It's quite interesting, and this might be the fourth time he has been abducted. Now the politics behind this is, Azimio is claiming these are frustrations because Maina Njenga has been opposition, opposing the government. The ongoing conversations of frustrating the opposition, leaders by leaders. The other day we saw former Kakamega governor, Wycliffe Oparanya, was held over corruption allegations and all these issues. And every time this happens, Azimio come out, these frustrations. What do you make of that?
Let me get it right. Was he found somewhere in a forest, or he was picked from some police station somewhere?
He was picked from his friends. He came from all the way from
No, I mean where he was released.
He was released on the road, and he took a motorbike. Yes.
So whose story is that?
This is a story that has been happening.
Who's narrating the story?
It's out
The
there.
police or the victim?
The victim's family.
We're just asking ourselves the questions. Actually, as Kenyans, we're asking these questions. Who gave the story? So have we gotten the version of the other side?
Of the government, we've not had.
Of the ones who are accused now, the DCI, because they have the communications department. We need to hear what the police is saying about this. We also need to hear the DCI, which has not spoken as yet, which means it could be true, but I'm not seeing it as any time the police would act like this. Abductions are secretful. Not introducing yourself as a police officer and it be you are a police officer. Maybe you'd call it an arrest, then they discover they ought not to keep you out of whatever reasons, and you're released. However, I'm not getting into this narrative that has been given to our dailies, because our dailies nowadays are just reporting anything to sell. What we are seeing is that it's a story that is there, but now it's pending verification. Would like to hear the side of the police via the Inspector General of Police, because DCI still falls under their department. It's a department in the National Police Service. So once we get that one, then we'll be able now to do our evaluations, our scrutiny, and our analysis.
So it's not a matter of just taking.
No, we can't jump into
hear
conclusions. We
and
can't jump
moving
into
on with
conclusions.
it.
We can't jump into conclusions. Yeah, it's too early. It's too early.
Interesting. Now, you remember the other day, court was seeking increase in minimum wage, making sure that if this is the minimum wage, we need now to raise it to make sure that we also caution employers. If this is the way to go, then it means that employers will now have to dig deep. But are we considering what is coming in?
Anytime we talk about the employers, we try to figure out who makes the wealth for the employers. And that's the employee. So if the employer is making enormous wealth out of it, it means the employees are working hard. So their reward is just giving them better emoluments, better salaries, better commissions, and experience even better results in the end. So when Kotu speaks, I think it's in the goodwill of the employee. Of course, the employer will feel that it has lost. Just the way we were talking about the loopholes being sealed by the government. The cartels are suffering, and they're complaining. You know, it's like the other day I was discussing with a friend of mine, and I was asking, why would we have a private hospital in a public hospital? Does the public hospital obtain medication, machines, equipment through private identity or private principles, or public principles? Public principles, as in the government has got policies in place that certain things are given for free, others are given at exiguous price. Okay.
Yes.
Maybe a tablet a shilling. Then I go to private, the same hospital, and I pay for 50 on this other side, 50 shillings. But on this other side, I'm only paying a shilling and 50 cents. Okay? Such would actually complain the day that issue shall be addressed in our hospitals, because it's becoming a trend. Now the people in the public department are not getting the needful service from the medical. Now the same thing now. When these people are talking about the employee, now we come back to the employee, we're saying the cartel suffered. Now, the employer will feel the pinch. Something is being taken away from them. The cartels will feel the pinch when that thing is taken away from them. You get the point? Yes. And many other departments that have got cartels. But now here, employers are not cartels. Employers are just people of goodwill who have given people an opportunity to earn a livelihood. Okay? And the only thing that is there is that the employer is supposed to consider the economic trend, economic changes, both local and global, so that you can see what really and where the effects of cost of living are coming in, so that they can see whether they also can chip in to make things easy for their employees.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, also that we've seen Daily Nation highlighting death of trade unions, specifically how, we understand trade unions have been very powerful over the years in the country. And right now it is being claimed that they're becoming weak as days goes by. Is it a matter of their leaders? Specifically talking about the teachers' union. We heard when Sosion was there.
Yeah.
You know, it is for him, or rather for teachers, they were used to this kind of very vocal leader.
Yeah.
Now they're having this other leader who is not that vocal like Sosion. Now, looking at these trade unions, we are seeing that the claims are that they're losing the grip, the great muscle they had. Now, is it about being vocal, or is it about finding someone who is suitable, who can solve your problems amicably?
I'll give you an example. And I'll take an example of the image they put on the front page. Atwoli, Francis Atwoli. When Francis Atwoli was a dear to the political organ, political side that the same media house was supporting, it was pro-government, pro-then government. They didn't have a problem with Atwoli. Yeah, he was not in a slumber. But since the day he jumped ship and moved to this other side and started becoming a proponent of government's policies and whatever, he's become their enemy. So they would say what they want to say concerning the trade unions. But when you have a negotiator for you, then you get things right for yourself. Kenyans who are complaining, who the media, especially that media house, would like people to complain about, are the same Kenyans employed in industrial area and wherever, where the Employment Act favors the employee. Read the Employment Act 207, which Atwoli negotiated with the Kibaki government to have it in place so that he can support the Kibaki government.
Yes.
And he was granted. For whose benefit? The Kenyan. I mean, it's time we wake up and begin to look at things from, let's not be quick to erase our history, we can expand our storage capacity and be able to pick issues that deserve remembrance like such. You can remember, and if we do a good research, we can understand, we read the Constitution, we don't have to be lawyers, but we can read Constitution, we can read the law and see whether it favors the ordinary Kenyan employee or it favors the employer.
Yes.
Things changed, and actually to the favor of the employee. And who fought for it with his team is Francis Atwoli. That was 2007. So he had to play politics for the sake of his people. Okay? Yeah, much as I would criticize him for certain issues that maybe were not as good with him, but in terms of making that small bit that was entrenched in the law, you can say so many things and they don't go into the law, so which means they don't have to be implemented, they don't have to be effected, you don't have to benefit from it. But when he has made sure that thing goes into the law, then you're there to benefit forever.
Yes.
Until you do a referendum now to change that one. I mean, change the law, rather. Yeah.
Now, let's...
So, the headline, I think is just, you see, they put a very gory, scary word, death, so that everybody, the nerves can be twitched.
Yes. Yeah. Now, we are moving to Maisha number from the analog second generation IDs. The debate from Huduma number, a 10 billion project back then, under the Jubilee government. Now we're moving to Maisha number, a 1 billion project. 10 billion failed.
Yeah.
You are a communication strategist. What can make Maisha number be a success? Now Kenyans are complaining. We registered, we queued for days. We never got our Huduma number. Now we're having Maisha number. As a communication strategist and also political, how well can the government market this one so that those Kenyans who were frustrated back then after queuing will benefit?
The Maisha number, like the Huduma number, must come in. They are in the guise of digitizing identification. And like what we saw with the global trend of digitization, we saw what the WorldCoin was doing. And we saw how secretful the world coin is when you get to the headquarters, when you get to the deeper sense, because it's called a tool of what? A tool of something that goes with what is supposed to happen in the end. Now, it is actually connected to the London Eye, the Las Vegas Eye, and everything, and all these kind of things that you're seeing right now.
Yes.
From those secret whatever. But the world must digitize to acquire what you call a microchip for every identity. Whether today it's coming in as what do you call this, as Maisha, or it came in as Huduma. Huduma was to come with it digital, with that small card thing, like like a SIM card thing that we see there. But we have seen again the digitization, which we were talking about, that was being issued the other day, about the barcodes and the like.
Yes.
So I don't know what Maisha bears in it, but what I know is that the process of digitization globally must take place. Spiritually, I can tell you these are the end times. So the digitization must take place. Coming back to Kenya, Maisha, the government will have to do quite some work to convince Kenyans that either it is within the same process, or they're going to take us through the same rigorous process of carrying our driver's license, our passports, and our IDs, and present them again for this exercise. I think the government will do some bit of verification of whether Huduma number is actually cognizant to what appears for every individual in Kenya in the system, in the registry systems of the government. Okay, because whatever was picked from the Huduma is supposed to, reflect on the registry, registrars. So if registrar persons, so if that is not there, I believe the government, before it gets to the ground, hits the road, and begins to make these changes, they should first make sure that they have reconciled what had been collected for every Kenyan individual by Huduma, then they can be able now to come up with the Maisha and now effect it and put in the new features that are supposed to be, apparent in the new card.
Amen.
Yeah.
Now, remember, according to the immigration PS, that is BITOC, digital IDs will have 4 components. That is unique personal identifier, called the Maisha number. The Maisha card will be a 3rd generation ID. The digital ID and the final component will be the National Master Population Register. You understand? It will be easier now to register and count people come 2029. And now remember, this will also be easier, as you will just need to walk with it on your phone. You don't have to carry the physical ID. Just what exactly you're talking about. And we have to move from analog. Yes. What has been, what was used back then will have to be dropped.
It is exactly the same thing I was telling
and
you.
it will also have a KRA pin.
Yes. What I was driving at, because now the world that is listening may not really be adherents to the biblical prophecies. The reality is that these are the end times. When Canada and Australia introduced the microchip in the right palm of the hand, that was in the late 80s, 1989 there. It has been working for them. But how did it come around? It came around as, you don't need to carry all these things. You can have everything secured in that microchip and can be fitted within your systems without paying.
Yes.
So it has been working. Go to the US. There are areas where you just buy and wave and go, and it goes to your accounts and withdraws whatever money that is supposed to be deducted for whatever you've consumed. Just wave and go, These are things that are existing right now. But what's working is a microchip. Now, what works in the supermarket is the laser that picks what is in the barcode. The barcode, we're seeing the lines, but it's a microchip in it. And that is what is going to be in the ID cards. And that is where we are heading. Leave alone now the maisha. The maisha will come, and for a few years, again, will be abandoned, because what will be even safer is having it on phone, or again, having it in your body.
Yes.
And having it in your body, the ideal part is just the forehead and the palm. These are prophecies getting fulfilled.
Well, interesting.
Yeah.
Now,
but we're heading there. We are not very far, but we're heading there. Yeah, it's still not clear to many people.
Yes.
But that's the reality.
Now, coming back to the issue to do with the cost of living, and now FKE, the Federation of Kenya Employers, saying that we might be facing tough times if the government continue hiking the taxes. Is it favorable to investors, and what next for Kenya in terms of investment?
Well, in real sense, high taxes definitely are never attractive. But if the taxes are there to benefit your production, your trade, then I think if it does benefit your trade, one way or the other, then I think we will actually celebrate. One can celebrate the results that will be there. Somebody can complain of the taxes, and where you have your industry, is no roads, there's no accessibility. And as soon as the roads are put up without debts, because the government is trying to fund itself with taxes. Yes. Without debts, it means that that road is not going to be constructed twice. So at some point, I do believe that within the 5-year term for President William Ruto, the taxes will go down. And in my projection is within the next 1.5 years. So we might experience a very harsh time. Yes. That's the reality. We might experience a very harsh time. But in the next 1.5 years, by December next year, early next year, and early 2024, things might be different. 25, things might be different from what they are today.
Yes. So it's a matter of time.
Yes, and patience.
But others will say
patience
it is a political strategy.
To do what?
For them to come back come 2027.
Any opposition side would say that. Yeah. That's their recipe, and that's their good thing, because that is what would actually help their politics. Yeah. But according to the government, when you're put in place of leadership, actually the responsibility is on your shoulders. It's not on the opposition side. It's on your shoulders. So you must be so real. That's why you see leaders like this one talking real. They tell you this is how it is. It's amazing that somebody would complain that that a leader has said that you can die in a very good doctor's hands. I mean, how many have died in good doctor's hands and in good hospitals? I mean, even if you take the hospital to space in a shuttle and you be treated there, death can find you still there. So it's just a matter of changing our perspective. Yes. Yeah. And looking at things from a realistic point of view. Yes.
Now we have El Niño, that was among the first. We've seen counties now in a rush to make sure they put strategies in place.
Yeah.
But how effective will that be, considering we only have 12 days to go before what the Met Department projected? October will be the peak of El Niño rains in the country.
El Niño.
Mind that farmers are also harvesting.
Yeah. El Niño is a natural disaster. It's not a government thing. It's a natural disaster. However, Kenyans should be ready. Should pray, I would say. Pray for the government. Pray for ourselves. So that we can have better ways, better ideas of having, of dealing with this impact. However, it's very tricky when you're dealing with something you don't understand, because we don't know the magnitude. But checking from what is happening in countries like Libya, and other countries affected at the moment, it tells you that, the impact could be enormous. However, until it has happened, we can't know. But preparations must take place. The unfortunate thing is that Kenyans are last-minute timers. They run the last minute and they begin to work on it. Imagine doing a concrete slab, now from the technical side, construction side. When you do something made of concrete, it's supposed to take not less than 21 days in direct sun. And here you are, you want to do it in 12 days. Yeah. So it's a problem. They would have done it 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Because I remember the days, the government of the former president, Moi Kibaki, when they were building dikes in places like Budalangi, they did it, and they really invested on those dikes. Okay, so it's the same thing. We're saying they would have worked towards maintaining them, but where was our focus? More roads and more roads, which are good for accessibility. But you would have had more water pans and dams, put up instead of politicizing. If Kimorere and Aror was done, there would be some place where the water would be draining and also, running through the rivers, because there would be a reason for you to align those rivers to take the water to drain off any dam. I mean, that's the pattern of a dam, a water collection, whatever. However, Kenya is favored in the larger part. Its terrain is not as flat. Not all regions are flat. So I think it would be very easy with proper planning to always have a focus of what can happen in terms of weather, instead of just waiting for things to happen. A calamity comes, then you begin now to run, amok, trying to, deal with these things. Yes. Yeah, which is wrong. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, we hope that farmers will have a way to dry their maize.
We hope so. We hope so.
Might be disastrous, the way you say it.
Yeah.
Might have a very, might be a difficult time.
Yeah. So we must brace ourselves as reality dawns.
Yes, we've seen the issue to do with the bipartisan talk now coming back to politics, because I understand time also might not be on our side. We've seen the talks taking its pace, or going at its own pace.
Yeah.
With the committee meeting once in a week. Might we have more quick way to have these talks, as in, can we have a frequent meeting? Is it possible for them to have a frequent meeting? Because we saw other analysts trying to say this might just be a way of buying time, trying to find a petty reason not to solve these issues right now.
I like dwelling on reality. I said here one day that the one chasing the other, both of them are running. So who's getting more tired than the other as they run? Both of them are getting tired, covering the same mileage. You get the point? So both the government and the opposition are actually on a recess. And they must take it easy. And I'm talking about the government as in the leaders and the leaders of this other side. You get the point? Because the opposition is there. It has its supporters. The supporters may not understand this is the game. Okay? But the people who psych them up, the people who incite them, are the ones who are actually on recess. So they will take that slow space. They agreed on once a week. Okay? Mm-hmm. So if it's going to take like 10 weeks, that will be 2024. They know too well by that time, whoever is psyched up, at that time they will be, they'll have also lost sight of, what was happening in 2022, 2023 as mandamano. So the sufurias will not have any reason, any weight, yes, if the harvests are done and our National Cereal Board is having enough in our silos.
Yes.
So silos, that is. So what I'm trying to say is that they are also trying to kill the momentum. Yeah, and they've agreed to do that. So
in a silent way.
Yeah, it's up to Kenyans just to see it from very far. Read between the lines.
Yes,
yeah.
And in our previous interviews or other discussions, you've been talking specifically about the issue to do with succession, the opposition, the chief opposition leader's position.
Yeah.
The succession politics that was also witnessed the other day in Siaya.
Yeah.
After Oburu Odinga said somehow that the Opiyo Wandayi, the current minority leader in parliament, might be the one to take from Raila.
Yes.
And now, the conversation is moving up and down, specifically that is under in Nyanza region. But let's look at Azimia as a whole. We understand we have, they call him Man Stevo.
Yeah.
From your experience in matters, political strategy and all that, and the way you understand his way, for him it's very difficult to project
Yes.
and also assume his next move?
Yeah. Well, let's take it from Oburu Odinga. Oburu Odinga was speaking in Luo Nyanza, and so he was speaking to Luos, members of ODM.
Yes.
However, ODM is actually spread all over the country. We have Kambas, we have some Kikuyus, we have some Embus, we have some Gabra, some Mijikendas. We have people in all these areas, yes. And their interests must be represented. So talking of Opiyo Wandayi, one, I would see a very tribal mentality if we are fighting tribalism, negative tribalism. I don't mean belonging to any tribe is wrong, but the negativity in whatever sentiments one explains becomes an issue. Because ODM is not really supposed to be an outfit or a property of the Luo Nyanza. Yes. It's supposed to be for Kenyans. And Raila Odinga does not run for presidency as a Luo. And that again now bedevils the interests of Raila Odinga in politics, because somebody will think, oh, okay, kwa hivyo vile wanasema itoke kwa Mjaluo iende kwa Mjaluo. You understand? So people from other tribes will actually decide not to support thereafter. However, Raila Odinga is a phenomenon in ODM. And replacing him, it will take a lot more than what Kalonzo Musyoka is doing right now, a lot more than what Kalonzo Musyoka started when he said, I'll start like the way Ruto did his thing, I'll do mine. And you never apply any other person's strategy that worked for him yesterday and apply them today and think it's going to work for you. It may not. And the person who worked on it may not be the same as you. You know, the energy he reserved for this, resources he actually put together for that push, you may not really have that kind of muscle. And to the best of my understanding, and I'm not being malicious, Kalonzo Musyoka somewhat seems to lack what we call financial might. And this becomes a problem, and that's how come again, a setback for him to take up that position, unless he's aligned to some people who can really furnish his bid for 2027. Because if Raila Odinga would still claim, he would still have his support with him. So definitely what Kalonzo Musyoka is trying to do, I saw him when he was splitting the Soweto camp, where we have guys like Gaucho and this other guy called Okanga, so we took the Gaucho side, you know, this politics. And both of them were working for ODM and Raila Odinga. So these are the politics, that's how it works. Just pit two guys to clash and that's it. You get the support, some bit of support. Well, it's a strategy, but does he have the oomph to push for that? That becomes something that we're waiting to see. However, Kalonzo's bid for presidency is always mixed with two things. One is fear, and the other one is hopeful. Not hope, he's very hopeful. Yes. Hopeful of being endorsed, hopeful of being handed over, yes, you know, leadership by the current Azimio leader. And that is why you see him going and coming back, you know, this back and forth thing until he claimed that we should call him Mujinga if he supports Raila Odinga. It means he is unsteady. He stands on, if his feet is on the ground, he's actually on very unstable ground. Yes. So what Kalonzo Musyoka should do to command a following and also to create a domain for himself, a strong one, is to move from where he is, 3 governors out of, I don't know how many Ukambani governors that are there. He only has 3 as Wiper. And being his stronghold, he should sweep the way Raila sweeps Nyanza. Is the same thing. So he should work towards that. You consolidate your effort, you know, and your power, you marshal it there, then you're able now to have a bargain power to other communities. But if you don't establish, you know, that grip, then it means it's going to be, you know, tricky for him to get to go very far. So I think some of these things are the ones that have beleaguered Kalonzo's bid towards his presidential bid. Dependency on Raila Odinga, of course, like I said, Raila Odinga is a phenomenon. He's somebody who one day will not be in the Kenyan politics, and he shall go in history hata kama utamuita Zumbua ama utamuita mtu mzuri wa kutetea haki zetu, all those things will go to his tribute. Yes. Okay? Yeah, as somebody who has had both, sweet and salty for us. So what you're saying is that is the impact Kalonzo Musyoka is supposed to create in Ukambani, if not in countrywide, so he can have a bargain power when he goes to these other communities to seek for support. Yeah.
What kind of picture would you paint come 2027 in case Odinga will still be in picture of the opposition? Is Kalonzo likely still to be there?
One thing
just paint a picture, or rather your projection from your political...
If Raila Odinga goes for presidency, starting now, there are politics that are actually condemning, not condemning, but criticizing his age. Criticizing his age as in he's not now the best of candidates that ODM would have to run against these young guys. And like I'm saying, the young guys, once their systems are rolling and Kenyans begin to see the results, the politics of 2022 will die. So come 2027, it means Raila Odinga will have an uphill task trying to, propagate his relevance in politics. Age will be a factor that will be hitting him so hard. And as you have seen, a majority of the voters or his voting bloc is spread countrywide, but the bigger one is in Nyanza. It's always good to have a home turf. But what I'm trying to say is that as we continue towards this, he might lose big time if he vies for presidency. However, that is just a prognostic, perspective. But the reality might be different.
Yes.
Just the way it dawned on them, having all plans and strategies in place and lost the elections with the government support and all resources with him, and still they lost the resources. So we can have the government in place with all resources, all power with them, but still lose. If the time appointed for Raila Odinga to take over this country, that is by vote, happens to be 2027, then it shall be. But he'll have quite some battles he's going to fight within ODM as at now. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So age still stands a very important factor in politics.
Yeah, it does.
It will be very interesting to see how that will pan out to be, in case he will still be there, and whether Kalonzo Musyoka will also still be on his back trying to push him
hopefully
to that seat.
Hopefully.
Things change.
Yeah,
they say this is politics and this is Kenya.
Yeah.
We've seen this back in 2007 before the coalition.
Yeah,
the government came in before Kalonzo Musyoka became the vice president. A lot of things changed, and also we also saw Martha Karua's exit.
There's a wise man who happens to be my father, my pastor. He tells me that do not depend on your past successes. Neither should you import your past failures into your present. So the kupitia katikati ya watu in 2007 may not apply in 2022, 2027, 2030.
It's a different season.
It's a different season, different players. So I think the re-strategizing, a different approach is what he needs right now in politics. I said, if he's touching the ground, his feet are touching the ground is very shaky. Okay? So he needs to have his feet on a very, very firm ground. Yeah, by 2027.
2027. Now, because of time, what would be your take-home in terms of, does the government care about the cost of living and where are we headed as a country?
Well, in a nutshell, I would say the government cares. Because I've been saying this over and over. Systems, working systems. Evidently, the 222 is something that can work and actually would work if we have all this money channeled to other direction. But again, cartels are going to come up with new ideas. However, it will increase whatever is collected, the revenue collections of the government into our coffers. It will actually increase this. Secondly, what the government is negotiating with the banks in favor of the borrowers, in favor of the clients, then I think if that goes on well, if goes through rather,
Yes.
then I think it's going to have a good economic impact on the Kenyan society. However, there are many other things. See what has happened with the, subsidizing fertilizer for production, because you had the president say you cannot subsidize consumption.
Yes.
Subsidize production so that you can have a surplus from what we make. And right now we're about to reap, and I believe with God's favor, Kenya is going to have whatever we had planted, reap in time and have it in our silos in due time for safekeeping for our future.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like the DP, you're saying we should be patient.
We should be very patient.
Yes.
Very, very. Patience is a virtue. Yeah. We only exercise it. That would
Thank
be
you
good.
for joining me this morning. I do hope that Kenyans now understand the different issues, and it is time to speak the truth. But then, is there hope left for us? We do hope so. Sure. As you said,
Sure.
Let's be patient. Also, DP Gachagua stressed that we do need to exercise patience with the government.
Yeah.
Many thanks for joining us this morning. This has been The Morning Live. My name, once again, is Sami Adika. Do have a fantastic day ahead.
Good morning.